The Grand Tour boys spelled penis.
I
On the
don't know what to
last
say to
episode,
that.
it's a spoiler for the last episode of the Grand Tour. They all wore their Christmas jumpers, um, and the yeah,
Oh,
but they all had their. So Jeremy had the McLaren P1 car with the P really big. Um, Hammond had the Honda or Jaguar E type with the E really big, and then James May had the Nissan across there, and with like as the cardigan. So the one side said Nis, and so he stands to his side, and it went P-E Nis. You know, the classic Top Gear humor.
I've never seen Top Gear, so I have no idea.
Oh God, you need to watch it. It's great. It's funny.
I've heard that it's shit now, so
Well,
it's
the
just my
Grand,
speed.
yeah, the Grand Tour. This last season of Top Gear was okay. Wasn't like what it used to be, but I mean, what do you expect when you have different hosts? But hey, this is not a show where we're going to be talking about that because I didn't put that in my nerding out. Instead, we got some news, and um, there's a reason why I didn't ask how you're doing, because this is sort of like a double kick to the balls here, because we have what was it on Monday, or was it yesterday, Tuesday? Um, I think it was Tuesday. Carrie Fisher passed away. Um, she was most famously Princess Leia, but she had done a whole bunch of other things. She actually, one of the last things she filmed is a British TV show. She had filmed the third series of Catastrophe, and like that was the filming that she had done. That then had her on the plane over, to America. That she had the heart attack and then passed. Yeah, it's a sad thing that this happened. They did say that she did finish all of her stuff for episode 8. I know it's selfish to say that, but I know everyone's wondering it, who come to us for the news. And on top of that, and this is actually, in my opinion, a little poetic. Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher's mom, passed away today, just a day after Carrie Fisher. It's there's something a little bit poetic about that.
Well, she probably was very much under stress from.
Yeah,
I mean, here's as I understand it. Carrie had a heart attack on a plane on Friday,
yep,
and hit stable condition over the weekend through Christmas, and so, and in the midst of that, we lost George Michael. So what a great
yeah,
fucking weekend this has been, anyways. But right when everybody is like, fuck you, 2016, the force is strong with this one, you can't take her away, memes were happening everywhere. Be careful what you fucking say. Because
yeah.
2016 is like, hey, I got a dick right here. I'm going to fuck all of you. And pretty much just did. So I'm sure that Debbie, now obviously being her mom, a little bit older, 84 years old, probably going through a very
Yeah,
tough few days on her own. I think the story said that she seemingly had a stroke, and the same sort of thing is like they were trying to see how bad it was and everything, and a few hours later, she passed away. So, two legendary actresses, two legendary voices in cinema, and I know more about Carrie than I do about Debbie, but I mean, Carrie did a lot of writing, and some of her film work was based around her relationship with her mother. Maybe loosely, maybe not so loosely. Postcards from the Edge was a film that was basically about Carrie Fisher and her mom. So Carrie's voice has carried, so to speak, a lot of her life, her trials, and things into films, not just through her acting, which she's always been a very good actress. She's done a lot of things that people don't even realize. Like they always think of Princess Leia, but I remember her being the pre Meg Ryan Tom Hanks significant other in things like The Man with One Red Shoe, the Tarzan scene, or in The Burbs. And then she showed up with Meg Ryan in When Harry Met Sally as her best friend and was brilliant in that. But she's just done so much stuff. And then I guess she was also a script doctor, which I didn't realize, but I guess as a writer, it makes a certain degree of sense. She's got just an immense sense of humor. So she's kind of this amazing woman that has dealt with a lot of hardships, has dealt with substance abuse, has dealt with bipolar conditions. And I think that's the kind of thing that we've kind of missed sight of in 2016, is that we've lost a lot of really amazing people, but a lot of the people that we've lost have been people who have had drug or alcohol problems. Now, a lot of them have recovered. A lot of them had certainly been clean and were living better versions of their lives at that point. But it's still, it comes back. I mean, even people who we didn't see as drug abusers had overdose problems be at the root of the things. It's really scary to see how much the drugs have affected the long list of incredible people that we've lost this year. And I think that's just it's so tragic. But I'm kind of sick and fucking tired of the internet and its memisms of like, oh well, we still have Betty White. It's like, do you understand that 2016 isn't fucking over yet, and 2, it's not like people stop dying when 2017 hits. It's not really that fucking funny to say, well, this person's not dead yet, so woohoo. You know what? Thank God that they're not dead, but shut the fuck up about it. What I've enjoyed more, sad as it is, since Carrie actually passed, is just the amount of people who are just pouring out emotions of how much she meant to them, and how much, especially young women and women of all ages now, but who saw her as Princess Leia and saw her as a fighter, as the leader of the rebellion, as so many things that were so far deeper than what you would normally have expected or witnessed as a woman in a sci-fi film. To see her part grow and become stronger, to see her have access to the Force and everything, and just be essentially the toughest, least wishy-washy character in all of the films. Like, she never stopped fighting, and I think that that's very inspiring as a character. And I think that the way that she portrayed that, and the way that she kind of has lived that as well, is something that it's just so admirable. And yeah, it's a huge loss. Both of them are huge losses, but it's kind of, I really have to think the takeaway from this is, like, I'm not someone who thinks that drugs should be illegal. It's certainly not certain types of drugs. I think that the pharmaceutical companies are more dangerous because they found a way to make themselves legal in the system, and they found a way to do a replication of all the things that other drugs do. And Beatmaster's pointing out, and alcohol. Yeah, alcohol's a great one too. I think that those things have found a way to work the system, and so their label is okay just because someone can get rich off of them. But the things that are not legal are the things that often are at least more natural, if still bad. A lot of them are still really terrible for you. I'm not saying go get your organic heroin, anybody, but I'm just saying in general, be fucking aware, because it's gonna fuck up your life. You know, and your decision to do what you're gonna do, the only thing that you have to be held responsible for is how it affects others. If you're doing it while driving or doing your job or whatever, then yeah, you're gonna fucking lose your job. You're gonna lose your license. You may go to jail, but hopefully without actually killing somebody. But in general, it's not like it's gonna make you healthy. It's not like it's making you a better person. So just be fucking careful.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher, they both will be missed. So yeah, this seems weird. We're on this. We got this weird pattern going on where every other episode we're going to cover a death. Look out, episode 33. You know, but
Like, I
and
will be crass enough to just say the first celebrity who dies in 2017, what a fucking thing to try to live up to. Like,
yeah.
just like, hey, we're breaking a new year. Here's our first celebrity death.
Well,
Better be Kanye. Please be Kanye. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But it better be Kanye.
Send all hate mail to Don't Ask Comics on Twitter.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll own that shit. Fuck it.
Corey just gets like 200 million followers. All of them are like, "Fuck you."
You know what? Fucking.
But no,
you know, I don't give a shit.
I mean, yeah. One thing I will, echo about this before moving on is something I think I remember hearing Scott Johnson and Brian Ibbett say on the morning stream. In the beginning of the year when we lost Prince, Alan Rickman, David Bowie, like all like right back as like bang bang bang, you know, or maybe it was Lemmy, not Prince, but we lost
Lemmy was actually last year. It was today last year that we lost
wow.
Lemmy.
Wow, yeah.
But it just felt so 2016 at that point. You know, we were just getting to understand that Lemmy was gone when all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, what now? What is going on?
But we lost so yeah, I think it was Prince then. So it was, Prince, David Bowie, and Alan Rickman, and it was like, hey, you got to realize these guys are getting up there in age, and it's like, yeah, that's a weird thing because we always like to think of ourselves as immortal, but we're not. This is where it's like people go like, oh hey, look, haha, Betty White's still here, and I'm same way. It's like Stan Lee. Today was Stan Lee's 94th birthday, and all that, and it's like, yeah, that's great. Happy birthday. It's like, how much longer? When are we going to see the news report of Stan Lee has passed away?
And that's the thing is like there's the sense of following celebrity news, following things that are just like, oh, who died now, and everybody's reposting about it. Now I understand emotionally we're connected to it. I bawled. I'm still not quite in a happy, comfortable place when it comes to Robin Williams dying. And that was on his own terms, but it was in response to the fact of health issues and stuff. I understand the connection that we feel to celebrities. I'm not one of those people who's going to piss on people for saying that they deeply connect to these people, even though they've never met them and don't know them at all, because we all do. You connect to a song, you connect to a film, you connect to a story, you connect to a book or a picture sometimes. It's okay to connect to something. It's okay to feel emotionally responsive to feeling of loss when someone who maybe only played a character that you loved, but that character meant something to you and their portrayal of their character meant something to you. I get all of that. But this concept of we're so tuned in, and this is the constant news feeds, is the constant 24-hour CNN bullshit. This is the constant Facebook just plugging shit into your brain all the time. It's just the filler of like, well, we have to tell you this. No, you fucking don't. You don't have to repeat it ad nauseum. We don't have to spend 1,000 hours thinking about everybody who's going to die or did die, because it's so much more important to celebrate the people as they're alive while they're here. And I think that you get in your head trip of, oh, well, how long is Betty White going to be around? How long is Stan Lee going to be around? That's a terrible way to look at it, because Stan Lee doesn't want to think about his impending death. Stan Lee is going out there and fucking living his life. Betty White, that's why they're inspiring. That's why those people matter so much to us, is because they don't act like they're old and ready to die. They are more vibrant and more alive than fucking I am most days. And I think Carrie Fisher was like that too. Carrie Fisher had a great sense of just zest for life and love and laughter. And so yes, it's horrible that we lost her, but there's no decent age to lose somebody like that. And George Michael, 8 years older than me. It's not an age thing at all, because it can sneak up on you. It can happen easily in your teens, in your 20s. It could happen. It happened to that guy on Glee. like just out of fucking nowhere. He's posting about what the fuck is a Sharknado, and then the next thing you know, he's gone.
Yeah.
That's some terrible, heinous shit to have to fucking deal with. Is like your whole life is ahead of you, but there's never a part of your life where it's like I'm not looking forward to tomorrow, and that's it's so hard to just let go of the I've been devastated so much, and this year has been so tough because all these people died. But at the same time, there's so many people that are around that are still incredible and that you still want to, and you get to see their work and you get to enjoy. And I can't think that it's good for us to just pour on of like, this person died and then this person died and then this person died and oh, how horrible 2016. There's a lot of fucking reasons that 2016 ain't good. But death is just fucking inevitable. Death
Yep.
is just fucking reality, and it's never going to get better. But it's just life is the other portion of it, and there's still so much life that we get to see and experience that we can't think about the death, because by the time that comes around, we don't have to think about it. We're done.
Yeah.
So let's just concentrate on the good shit while we have it.
It's one of those things, and this is probably weird for, a 27, almost 28-year-old to say, but, with being at, I've went to, quite a few funerals, for, like grandparents, friends from school. I remember one, actually, I didn't go to her funeral, but, my one friend, she had died, and she was only like 2021 when she passed, when she had passed, she got in a car wreck, just single car, things she flipped and stuff. But one of the things that a lot of people will say for a thing of mourning is they'll do that poem, The Dash. It's basically what you said. But I think it's one of the things like why I will probably be like, okay, you are not, no one is to recite this poem, because where it might be true, that dash marginalizes so much of life. Like you look at, both Carrie Fisher and actually all three, Carrie Fisher, George Michael, and Debbie Reynolds, all three of them, that dash where it's some of them, it's really short, it's really short period between in that dash, but yet such wonderful lives and all that. And it's, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, and
this
I
it's
don't know Carrie Fisher. I've never had the opportunity to meet her, and I can't say that I have a huge insight into her private life and thoughts and dreams and beliefs or anything like that. But I kind of just, in my mind, when I think of her, I don't see her as someone who is looking to have her life be talked about, the tragedy of her being gone, as much as the joy that she brought while she was here.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, so that's our first story. Our next story is how Amazon is operating like a 1970s studio. I brought this up. This article is originally written by Brian Formo, and this is all in consideration of their the beat. You're not really presenting anything that I'm seeing. Um, but this is in reaction to their latest movie, Manchester by the Sea. This is the one that's produced by Matt Damon. Stars there was no image. Stars oh, what's his name? Casey Affleck. Um oh, okay. I trust you guys on. Um and it's look like it's a lock for the Oscars for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Original Screenplay, and will likely get nominations for Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress. And this is one of those things that, I mean, Amazon Studios, they've only been they've only been doing these films for a very short period of time. I mean, it's, Chi-Raq was their first one that they did, and that was what, 2 years, like a year, 2 years ago. Um, and so it's one of those things that, you look at, oh fuck, I hate this articles, the way these things are done. And I mean, and the way that they're, that I feel like they are being done in this, 2016 or 2000 1970s film studio is they're getting good name or big name directors, not typically not people who have, huge followings, but when you mention, um let me see, like Park Chan Wook, a lot of people might know who he is. um Nicholas Winding Refn, people know who these directors are.
I don't know what any of these people are.
I've heard of Nicholas Winding Refn, and it wasn't for the Neon Demon. Um, but it was for something else. Typically more independent movies. These movies. Like we were talking before the air. Like it seems like I have a big, you know, a big love for independent movies. And then B, called me out on it with how many of those big movies that you love did you actually buy? And I was like, first off, you're right. Second off, fuck you. Third off, damn it, you have to guilt me into this shit. Be, because it's typically like I would like I told him is um Taika Waititi, who's directing Thor Ragnarok. I'm a big fan of his. And it came from watching What We Do in the Shadows. Done stuff, with like Flight of the Concords and stuff before that. But it was What We Do in the Shadows, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude is brilliant. I love this work. And it's like, and I have that. I rented that first, and then I'm doing the same thing with The Hunt for Wilder People. And it was one of those, like, I could have seen it because it was like, the next town over, they were playing it in theaters, and I'm like, I want to go see it in theaters, but I didn't do it. So I'm like, all right, I want to buy this. I want to buy them on Blu-rays. And with everything I've seen by, For Manchester by the Sea, I'll even include The Edge of 17 in there because that seems like a more indie film. It's like I really want to see these movies. They intrigue me more at a more personal level than a Guardians of the Galaxy or any big budget franchise movie would, or at least in a different way. But so what do you think about this, Corey?
I mean, so my wife asked me last night, and I'm not even sure what she was asking it for. We were watching, of all fucking things, we were watching Pee Wee Herman, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and because she's in this group and they watch '80s movies together. And unfortunately, she watched that first, not because it's a bad movie. I really enjoy that movie, but then she watched Explorers after when I was going to bed, and Explorers is more close to my heart. But
Wait,
she asked
wasn't
me,
Pee Wee's Big Adventure directed by Tim Burton?
yes,
Yeah.
and so she asked me what an auteur was, and I kind of gave a half-ass answer of it, but basically, an auteur is someone who's a filmmaker whose artistic influence is so big and so important to a movie that it's like they have a signature on it. And in a lot of ways, Tim Burton is an auteur, because you can tell, you can look at a Tim Burton movie and know that it's his. You can see movies. Who's the guy who did all the fucking stuff with Bill Murray, like
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson? You can fucking tell a Wes Anderson because they spoof it. You can spoof the shit out of a Wes Anderson movie, because you understand it. You can tell a Tarantino movie. These people
Mainly
have
because they swear a
signatures.
lot.
Well, that, I mean, if you're talking about his writing, yes, you can tell a Tarantino script, but if you look at a Tarantino script utilized by a different director, Kubrick's is a very good example, although I kind of fucking hate his work. And you can, when you see Tarantino's work done by another director, it's very different.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of the idea is what Amazon is doing is they're creating films that feel like films,
Yeah.
that feel like what movies used to be. And I get it, the studio from the 1970s thing, because that was before we had blockbusters. That was before we had movies that were like, oh, how many millions are we making from this? And what kind of toys are we going to sell with this? And how are we going to get this on t-shirts? And how are we going to get this everywhere else? In the 70s, we had Star Wars and we had Jaws. And that changed the landscape for films. And I'm not saying in a bad way. There's nothing wrong with having films be successful. There's nothing wrong with having films that are less about art and more about entertainment, because I think that there's a place for both. But we certainly lost track, and as much as in the theaters themselves than anywhere, of movies that can be made by an auteur. That certainly we've emphasized success, and we've emphasized franchise so much more over the last 10 years, especially, that to find a film that is a story that tells you one thing that is meant to be all encompassed into its own, that is just there for the beauty of the art, that hasn't completely disappeared, but it's certainly been devalued in film. And I get that it's weird to me that Amazon's the one doing it, but Amazon is one of the only powerhouses that has the capability of doing it.
Well, okay. So you mentioned that, and I counter with this, because a lot of people would think, well, what about Netflix? Netflix does stuff here, and and they get Golden Globe nominations for their stuff, like House of Cards, and productions like that. Typically, what's considered more television than movies. And here's the big difference with, and why I think they're being considered like a 1970s studio. They have a platform they can release the stuff on. They're not using it.
They're putting the films out in theaters as actual films. They're working in the existing system, whereas Netflix is sort of subverting the system, and movie houses don't necessarily want to play the Netflix movies, because they know it's just going to wind up on Netflix around the same time, and it's not going to be as successful for them. So the movie houses are like, well, we have screens that we need to sell these seats in. You're asking us to house this film in one of our theaters, but if only 10 people show up because everyone else is watching it at home, the fuck is that going to do for us? And Amazon's like, we're going to make these movies. We're going to put them out in the theaters like every other film studio does. And months later, it'll wind up on our service. It may wind up on our service and not necessarily on DVDs or Blu-rays first, but you're going to get your time with it before anybody else. And we're going to make it so that it's important for people to go see it in the theaters first, which is okay. It's kind of like publishing versus self-publishing. It's so weird that that's the tack that Amazon is taking, because Amazon has subverted the fuck out of publishing when it comes to working with a book company. And they've tried very hard to break down the book companies. In some ways, very good that they've done that, and in other ways, really underhanded shit. So I guess they pick their battles. They pick the things that they want to do and the way they don't. The thing with Amazon is that it's never the short game. It's always the long game. And so, yes, right now they are working with the film industry. They're working with movie theaters and stuff. But I'd be very wary of where that's going to lead down the road, because right now they're working with all these directors to get them under them. And what if Amazon becomes the new Hollywood?
Yeah.
What if Amazon becomes the next big movie studio that makes them like a Disney, that they have enough people that want to work with them because they've got the clout and the money to do it. And so it's like, well, then we can just collect IPs just as well as Disney's been doing. Amazon is a global phenomenon of what it does. Now, obviously, they're more successful in America than they are anywhere else, but it's kind of huge what they do. And there's never a short thought when it comes to what Amazon does, what Jeff Bezos does. It's always like, how far can we go? Where are we taking this in the big long picture? Because they lost money for years. They lost money for so long just selling shit at the most undercut prices and benefiting by the fact that they'd ship it out and you didn't have to pay taxes on it because nobody was enforcing that shit for a long time. And they fought that like crazy to put mom and pop stores out of business and then put the big box stores out of business.
Yep.
Amazon really upended everything when it came to retail. And they are trying to upend everything when it comes to, I mean, they upended everything when it came to book publishing. They're trying to do it for music. They haven't got it there because Apple already had a foothold in that, and everybody else is just scrambling to get after them. They have done it for comics now with Comixology buying them out. They've done it for audiobooks by buying Audible. So they've acquired the things that they need to acquire when they've gotten to it. Everything is just, at some point or another, they're going to twist the thing around and say, now that we've got you where we want you, this is how it's going to be. And that's, it's, I get it. It's kind of like, well, at least there's great art coming out of it, but you always got to be aware. You know, someone comes up with a big fucking check and says, I'm gonna make your life magical. You better check to see where the fuck they're going to pull that rabbit out of, because you're going to be shitting bunnies.
Yeah. I will point out that B is mentioning, you know, let's not forget some of the pilots that we've had through Amazon's pilot season. That, I believe, is them uprooting television, you know, more with, tell us what you want, you know, what you want us to make, which it seems like they've gone a little bit away from that. You know, with like what I would consider more indie television, they're still doing that, but the other shows still, you know, like The Tick, I don't think was actually one that they're like, yeah, we're doing it, here's the pilot, and we're doing it, and you know, I think what is the can't think of his name, Woody Allen show, you know, that I don't think that one was up for pilot. I think they immediately went to season with it. But it seems like for right now they're playing in the movie theaters playground.
Yeah, there's a difference between what they're doing with television style shows and what they're doing with movies. And what people will watch on TV. I mean, look at Netflix. Netflix did the demon shit pile that was the Richie Rich show for a season. And nobody fucking watched it, but it's not like they're afraid to make shit shows, because they fucking did it with Fuller House, which has gotten renewed because everybody nostalgia'd the fuck out of themselves and said, I'm going to watch some Fuller House. And now they've got this remake or updated version of One Day at a Time coming out. Same fucking shit sitcom stuff that you would see on TV. The stuff that you would just tune in the channel, like, who the fuck watches this? A lot of people watch it. All the Adam Sandler stuff. Like, Netflix doesn't give a shit if they're hitting the base of the lowest common denominator, because they're hitting the base. They just want people viewing it. And I think Amazon wants the same thing when it comes to stuff that's streaming on Prime. But that's one business. Yeah. There is the other business of the people who go out and see movies. And I don't know where their end game is with that, but there is an end game. And the end game is people will pay to go see movies if there's something there that's going to draw them in. No one's going to pay to go see Full House. No one's going to pay to go see Richie Rich or One Day at a Time, because that's the shit that's free that we've gotten used to being on a fucking UHF channel for years and years. And we're okay with that. But if we're going for an experience, if we're going for either art or we're going for big blockbusters, I don't know if Amazon's at the point where they can do giant blockbusters yet. I'm sure that is something that they're going to want to go to. But right now, they're starting out with the art. They're trying to get the people's attention by saying, oh, we're Oscar worthy, we're buzzworthy. When everybody started talking about Transparent, that fucking blew shit up for Amazon and their streaming service. That was like, oh shit, there's actually something on Amazon's this that I want to fucking see now that I can't see anywhere else. That's what it takes. That's what House of Cards and Orange is the New Black did for Netflix. It takes that moment of like, oh, they've got shows. Well, fucking CISO has shows. Fucking lots of things have shows, but they're all shit until they're not. Until you find the fucking magic that makes it work, and you say, well, we've made a few shows. We've got this under our belt. It's just like selling a spec script in Hollywood. You sell the script, and it's like, nobody's going to fucking make your movie, No one's going to even think about it, but you're going to say, hey, but I sold a script, or I have scripts now, and I can write the next thing, and I can write the next thing, and someone's going to start noticing and picking it up. And as you're getting paid and you're existing, you're getting better at the same time. That's what Amazon is doing. They're just fucking, we'll ride through every fucking wave because we have the bankroll to do it, and we'll get really good at it, or we'll get at least good enough that people will say, I'm going to go to Amazon first.
Yeah.
Because I know that they've had success.
No, yeah, exactly. I gotta ask you this, Corey. Do you sometimes black out when you go on your rants?
I haven't heard a thing I've said for the last 6 months.
Okay. I just want to make sure because I know I do it sometimes.
I don't even know what show I'm on anymore. Is this fucking? Is this Sci-Fi Geek Club? Does that still exist? I don't know. Are you Glenn? I don't know what's going on, man.
Oh, if only I could do a Glenn impression.
Fucking sing some Headboard, man.
It's been so long since I've heard him.
We miss you, Glenn.
Yeah, we miss you, Glenn. Please come back. But yeah, so our final news story, because I had nothing else to add to the last one other than
I hear you in your car saying "Thank God." I understand. I know what you're talking about.
Our final news story is Greg Capullo signs new DC Comics contract. This is the guy who, with Scott Snyder, sorry. Please, I didn't mean that. It was a proverbial slip. He did the Batman series for New 52, all the way through from Court of Owls all the way up to Commissioner Gordon as Batman.
Let's face it, he and Scott Snyder carried the New 52 for that 5 years until things finally flipped. That the Batman book was the #1 selling book pretty much the entire fucking time, and DC
until the end. I think Harley Quinn beat it.
Yeah, Harley Quinn came in later, but was definitely it's the thing that surprised people.
Yeah.
But Batman was like, this was a plan this shit out, and like, we know that these guys can fucking make this shit work. But it's still a big deal because Greg Capullo for years was, I mean, he's not an underdog artist. He's an amazing artist. He's always been a really good artist. But for years, he was Todd McFarlane in place of Todd McFarlane because he drew Spawn when Todd decided he wasn't going to fucking draw Spawn anymore. And he did an incredible job of it, but it was like, oh, but he draws it like Todd does. So it's just like, it's like reading Garfield and not having any fucking clue that Jim Davis hasn't drawn Garfield for the last 30 fucking years. Sure. All right. That's okay. I guess it's weird, but I don't know what the fuck you're doing, Jim. Do you hate Mondays so much that you can't get up and draw your own fucking strip? Maybe you do. I don't know. Jam on, man. Jam on. But Capullo fucking took Batman and showed us that he is not just a Todd clone. He's not an anybody clone. He's a fucking maestro when it comes to drawing. And then he went and he and Scott did create their own book at Image. That's why he took time off.
Yep.
Now he's coming back. And they've got their... Go ahead.
And he's also doing his primary focus has been with Mark Millar on his Image comic series Reborn. He's been doing the art there.
Yeah, which means what? 3 issues in a fucking decade, but the script already got optioned for a movie before first issue came out?
Probably. Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. I mean, I've got my fucking
actually you say that you say that, and the 3rd issue I think came out this week.
Yeah. No, I ain't fucking lying. I'm not talking out of turn here. I'm gonna keep talking, but I'm just saying, for every problem I have with Mark's storytelling, with Mark's fucking Hitler mustache he had for a while, just with Mark. And it's funny because he's the one who watched Civil War and said, "Oh, Civil War, I couldn't fucking I didn't understand the story. I couldn't tell you one thing that happened to that film. It's nothing like the cock ass bullshit I wrote down when I wrote the original Civil War." But yeah, great, Mark. That's excellent. How's it working? You being the spokesman for Fox's films? You dumb shit. How'd fucking Fantastic Four do? Sick my balls. But all the problems I have with Mark, when he works with an artist and he splits things with them 50-50, Mark's level of success of getting shit made in Hollywood, and somehow the film's like being way fucking elevated over anything he did in the comics originally, uh, it makes the artists successful too.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like cool with it. Yeah, you want to go work with Mark Millar? I don't fucking blame you. You're gonna be fucking Oprah rich at the end of the day, and good for you, man.
Yeah.
So Capullo,
And,
good.
and not only that,
thank you for sticking around and still doing fucking comics.
yeah, and not only that, I mean, I have been reading Reborn, and I did just catch my breath because I lost it there. I was laughing so much with Corey's little mini rant. I think I'm just gonna call this episode Corey's rants.
I'm just here. I'm just here, man.
No, I know, it's great. I love it. Dave's gonna be like, more, I want more. And I'm like, dude, there's not a switch. I mean, it just sort of happens.
This is just who I am.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just loud, obnoxious. It's the middle of my week.
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher said.
But I mean, it is cool to see. Like, I do enjoy. I've enjoyed so far the last two or three books that Mark Millar has done through Image. With Reborn, MPH, and Huck. But a lot of it was the art. The, like, Greg Capullo doing Reborn. I love it. It's like I'm reading a Batman story, but it's not Batman and all that. And because I relate the art back to his how he did over there, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is very. It's a similar process to going from when I went from Young Avengers over to Wicked and Divine, and then reading the back issues of Phonogram, with Jamie McKelvey, where I'm like, yeah, I see his art style. Loki looks a little bit like Lucifer in here, and that's really cool. Some people might complain about that. I'm like, hey, fuck you. I actually like that because it blends it sticks out more for me that way. And yeah, this is cool. The other part I will add with this, with Greg Capullo signing a new DC contract, is that there has been a DC Comics event that Scott Snyder and Capullo had been teasing. So this just sort of solidifies that will actually be happening. So
which I hope they're not in a hurry about, because they're already opening up the new year with the first DC Comics event since Rebirth, which is the Justice League Suicide Squad crossover. And I mean, I get it, and they're certainly they're not hammering it down in the way that Marvel is on events. JLA Suicide Squad sounds like it's pretty self-contained almost in what it's doing, and it's not invading every other fucking title.
No, yeah, that's the cool part. Is it seems like it's what only the Suicide Squad book, JLA. There was another one that I saw that I had just read as a little like a micro tie-in or something like that. But then it's the primarily the
it's the books where you normally find those characters.
Yeah, the Justice League versus Suicide Squad. Like it's like a 5 issues thing or something like that. But no, so I mean, this is pretty cool. I wanted to share this because it can't all be doom and gloom out there, folks. So why not celebrate with a fellow who is going to be making some dollar bills while he does the things that he loves and works with people that he really enjoys working with. And that is the news, and we will be right back.